I'm here with Coach Randy Marks of Verona High School. Randy is part of the Verona High School Wall of Fame and Wisconsin Cross Country Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Certainly a coach of huge success over his career. Randy, can you talk about your journey into running and then coaching cross country?
I'd love to. I can say I got into running back in junior high, and that's where I got the bug. I had played youth football as a 7th and 8th grader, and we had a coach, a Hall of Fame coach, Orville Jake Evans, come over to our junior high and show videos, or not videos, but back then it was 8mm film of his team and the sport, which I had never heard of before. And a lot of us in the Phi Ed class were kind of interested in that. So come spring that year in 9th grade, I went out for the track team and didn't know what events I was in. I was always one of the faster at foot of kids in sprinting over my years back in grade school, so I thought I'll give this a try back there. So when I came into my sophomore year at West High School, Madison West, I had a quandary. Am I going to play football, or am I going to try out this new sport? And because of some of my experiences in football, I decided to go with cross country. And a couple things happened to me in football and also in track that turned me towards that more of an individual sports direction. And next year it was cross country, and being a fast twitch guy, I wasn't the biggest dude on the block in that sport, but I loved it. The camaraderie, the intelligence of all the guys that are in there, and the way they supported each other from the bottom to the top sold me on the sport. And that was coaching. That's another deal. I wasn't thinking about that then. But off into track, I got out of baseball because I liked the idea of determining my own destiny, which you could do in track and cross country, and sometimes that didn't always happen in the ball sports. When I got into college, I decided I'd go out for the Badger track team. I went, why not? I'm going to the UW-Madison. I made a lot of improvements. Got down to 10 flat and 100 yards, and ran on a relay in the Drake relays with Billy Smith and Louis Holland, who were football legends. So when I started teaching at Verona in 1965, I came out and asked the AD, I said, who coaches the cross country team? And he said, what's that? And I thought, well, gee, doesn't AD, and he doesn't know what cross country is. Well, it was, I went to a big school in high school, and it had been around since the 40s, but Verona did not have it. So I said, well, can I start up a team? And he said, we don't have any money to pay you this year. It's not in the budget, so you'd have to do it gratis. So the first year I coached, I had 7 boys on the team, and we had no uniforms. They wore their Phi Ed pants. They had uniforms for Phi Ed back then. And, they had a thing on the front that said Verona PE or something like that, and that was our team. And we got into a few meets. I went back to my old coach and wanted to get into his invitational, the West Invitational, which had been around for a long time. And he said, well, I don't know if you're ready for that yet. I said, well, we'll run you in a dual meet. And he said, but I'm going to run my JV against you because you're just rookies. So we came down to Vilas Park, ran them in a dual meet, and our JV spanked us. But we had one guy that beat all our JV guys pretty good. And he ended up the next year getting third in the state meet. He was our first state medalist ever. He ran around 10:40, 10:50 for 2.2 miles, which is what we ran back then. It was pretty fast. So that's where we got started in '65 with that small group of guys. And being inexperienced, I just coached the way I was in high school, pretty much. And which we didn't do. Our longest run was 3 miles. That was our over distance when I ran in high school, and that's what I did with our kids, a 3-mile run. And it was over distance, I guess. But yeah, we did a lot of intervals back then, just like my coach had us do. There is no other sport in high school where every kid gets to compete in every meet except for the state tournament series. Even track doesn't allow that. And that's where I think the magic of cross country really stands out. These kids can get in there and see themselves improve over their career, their 4 years or 3 or however long they're in there, but they get that opportunity. There's no sitting on a bench watching others get a chance to compete. I just finished 58 years and maybe one left, maybe two. Who knows? My wife puts up with it. She has so far. She realizes probably if I quit when I didn't want to, I would be frustrated.
And you had you've had multiple state championship teams, boys and girls, on there. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah. When I first came, we were a school of 250, which was C, and it took me. I'm a slow learner, I guess, because it took us till 1973 before we could get a team to state. Going to clinics, reading books, going to some of these cross-country camps and learning from other coaches. I was able to make myself a better coach technically that way. And then by 1973, we had kids going to summer running camps and doing summer running. And we made it to state in 73 and placed sixth in the Division III, or would be a Class C back then. And then the next year we moved up to Division II in 74 and had most of the same guys back, and they went and ran a lot in the summer. And we went to camps together. They came back and defeated Wisconsin Heights, who was the defending Division III champion, and we both moved up, and we beat them by 2 points in the state meet in 1974. That was the first state championship for any sport at Verona at that time. And they were kind of worshipped like heroes around the school at that time, which was good to see because football usually kind of ruled the roost in the fall, and we kind of put a light on some of these other kids that weren't football players. And so that was kind of the beginning of our rise to ascension, and we were in Division II from 74 all the way up to 91. And that year as we grew up through the hundreds. And then in 1992, we were still only about 700 kids, and apparently that was the cutoff, and we moved into Division I, which is a totally different ball game. Your D2 schools, you've got 2-3 good guys and a couple supporting cast. You can win state, or you can definitely make it to state. Division I, you better have 6 tough guys, one to cover for somebody that has a bad race or gets sick or hurt, if you're going to go anywhere. And it got a lot tougher. And D1, our highest finishes have been 3rd and a 6th as far as single-digit finishes there, and that's it. And to get to state now, in our neck of the woods here, you got to be a top 5 team in the state right now. It's been that way for like 4, 5, 6 years. If you aren't a top 5 team, you probably aren't going to get to state. And it was that way this year. We got 8th ranking, and we were in with West, who was number 3, and Middleton number 5 or so in there. So we came out missing by 2 points of getting our first team to state in quite a few years.
If I can say that sectional is the super sectional of the state. I mean, everyone recognizes it, and
that girls too. I mean, yeah. I did. Speaking of girls, I don't want to forget about them because they jumped into the picture in about 1969 when I was getting my master's in Mississippi. 10 of our girls decided to start a cross-country team. Well, there wasn't. The WI didn't have it. There was no meets they could be in, but they got together and trained every night. And that was that was totally on their own. Just some brave girls that wanted to do something different. Well, they all graduated and went on, and a few years later, the WIA, around 75, I think, started letting the girls run. And I don't know, they had team scores right away, but in that ballpark. And I had one girl show up in 76 wanting to run with the guys. I said, absolutely, come on, let's go for it. And so she was our first official WIA runner. We added another one the next year. There was two of them. And then her senior year, we ended up getting 5 total. So we were starting to score in meets and so on. That year, I think it was 79 was her senior year, and she got a stress fracture, overtraining. Back then, stress fractures weren't as common. They called them fatigue fractures or something, but she was out. We were down to 4 girls. And there was a girl on the tennis team who had run track, was pretty good there. She decided to come out for cross country after tennis was over. So she had all of her exercises playing tennis, and she came out, made our team 5 again, and then at the state meet, our captain came back from injury. Well, she was still injured, and she said, I'm going to run. And so we ran that year, and the girls got 3rd in state in 79, and she graduated, leaving the nice, what we would call, I guess, a trademark left on the rest of these girls. And they all came back and won state in 80 and 81 in Division II, back to back. And then 3 years later, in 84, we had won another state title over Mount Horeb, who was an unbelievable team that year. Both of those teams were ranked in the top 25 on Harrier, ranked them. Based on postal nationals, used to run a track or cross-country meet on a track, and you scored it the same way. It was a 2-mile, flat 2-mile on the track, and we scored it, and they beat us in that meet, and we came back and beat them in the conference and the state meet. And that was probably one of the best girls teams that we've ever had that year. But the girls and guys have each won 6 state trophies, 3 firsts and 3 seconds by each one, and all in Division II for the girls, and the boys, same as the boys. So we're fighting hard to get our first D1 trophy. I don't know if I'll be the guy that coaches that team, but it's a good goal to have. And the sectional being very difficult, the WIA's philosophy is get somebody from every part of the state to the state meet, which I think is a admirable goal, but it shouldn't be the only one. Regardless, it's a great opportunity to work harder. When you're in a tough sectional, you got to say we got to find a way. We got to get the kids. We got to get them to work.
If I can ask you, I remember when I think the Wisconsin Cross Country Coaches Association started, or Bob White was he the first president, perhaps?
Yeah, I think he started the association.
Yeah.
He was the
and he initiated a clinic, but like in your early years of coaching, you had to search long and hard to find good information and clinics to attend, and now because of coaches like you and all the people that have contributed to the association, that there is such a vibrant resource for coaches to have.
Bob White was ahead of his game. He was really something. He was a Phi Ed teacher down there in Albany, and every kid had to run a mile to warm up for Phi Ed, and he would look, okay, and he'd call these guys over, and he had some powerhouse teams. He came up to our course too one year when we were starting to get good, and his kids probably ran 15 miles the day before. He was a heavy mileage guy. One of his kids had the world record for a 13-year-old in a marathon. I can remember that.
Oh my God.
One of his kids. But he came and we beat them, and he was so angry he made them all go out and run the course again for time.
to have people understand maybe better, he's probably the Joe Newton of Wisconsin.
Yeah, he was.
You know.
He was. He went to that Upsum camp way up in.
Far north. Yeah.
I never went to that, but I got the book.
The Pablo Nurmi camp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. And that was where they got the high mileage, and of course we got hooked on that too in the late '70s, even starting in '74, where our team was won state that year. Kids in the summer they went to that camp. They were doing 4 workouts a day. 4, yeah. Get up in the morning, run, eat breakfast, go to a couple talks and that, and go out and run again, and then eat lunch, and then you go for your evening run. And they weren't all hard workouts, but they were the end of the camp was a half marathon. You're lucky if you come back from those kind of camps without stress fractures and injuries. But that year we were just gold. I mean, the kids came back and all their workouts we were doing. Oh gosh, we're only doing 1, maybe 2 workouts a day now. I don't do that anymore. I cap our kids at about 60 miles a week for our top guys, and unless somebody's really unusual, and start out at maybe 25 or 30 with a freshman and just keep bringing it up so you don't get all these injuries. And that's the most discouraging thing, is to get runners that are on the bench and they can't run. That's just, but yeah, that era was something else. I know
you were also, you alluded to the cross country state championships, but also you were head track coach, and I remember, was it 99 or so, 98, when you guys won the state meet very dominantly.
Those guys down there.
Yeah.
I think the boys have won 2 runner-ups and 1 state D1 title and 1 state D2 title. So they have 4 trophies there. And then the girls have got, in track, the ones I've coached, we got second in '83, first in '84 and '5, second again in '86. So the girls have got a few. They piled up. Some of them I was not coaching in the '90s. I gave the girls up, and yeah, between our track and cross country kids, the ones I've coached anyway, I think we won 19 state trophies, whether the second or first. I'm pretty proud of those kids, because if you don't have the kids that are willing to do what you think they have to do to be the best they can be, you're not going to win anything.
You're able to build and develop one of the premier cross-country courses in the state at the new high school. You got to be so excited about that course, and
yeah.
you had such a hand in developing it, and I've driven past there so many times, and just eyeballing that thing of, Luke's it's not a retention pond, it's a small lake, and everything. It just aesthetically looks so cool.
Yeah, we're lucky. I mean, we got to be grateful for the things that we have. The course itself is in a beautiful wooded area. It takes probably 1.25 miles of it is through some of the most beautiful wooden vistas that you will see as a runner. Some of it's repeated. It's a 2-loop, similar to 2-loop thing. Pretty good for spectators and great for training. We have a training loop out there that's reasonably flat that we use for our threshold work and our intervals. And
what challenges do you see for coaches today? I mean, you look back in almost 6 decades of coaching.
A lot of distractions nowadays for kids. Some of them are good distractions and some aren't so good. I email kids that I want to try to get out. I volunteer coach middle school track right now. Short season, short meets, short practices, but it keeps me in the game, and I've been able to recruit some kids, girls and boys, because I coach the distance kids and long jump once in a while with middle school. So that's fun, and it helps. But sometimes kids just have another plan, and they have other dreams that don't match your dreams, and sometimes we just have to swallow that and say, well, good luck with what you're planning on doing. And I've had other cases where kids that I begged to come back a few years later. Oh, coach, I ran a 34 10K the other day. I said, yeah, where were you in high school when I tried to get you out? So, yeah, that happens. But I mean, at least they found it eventually. But it's one of my former girl runners called me the Pied Piper of cross country. I am. I'm sold on the sport, and if you get a few kids dialed into it, you will have lots of fun, and you'll win some too, right along with that. So keep going.
Anything else you can think of? We got about a half-hour discussion. But...
Yeah, well, it's for coaches. I guess you have to somewhat adapt yourself to the times. If you don't, you're going to have a tough time with it. Get the parents behind you. That's one thing. I think I've been very fortunate to have parents behind me. Don't have parents telling me what to do. Telling me, oh, you should be doing this workout, or you should be doing this with the kids. Most of the input has been real positive, and I'm just supportive. And I really encourage every coach to get a parent booster group or somebody behind you to help. I can remember when we first hosted our meet, my present wife, was hawking T-shirts and selling snow cones to make money. And I had my nephews and my sister down there doing that. Now that's all taken care of by our parents. So you got to get them aboard, and you got to develop a really good culture with your kids that parents say, wow, I want my kids to be part of that culture. And that means if the parent with a kid who doesn't have much talent hears their son or daughter come home and say, wow, this is really great. These guys are so... The parents are going to spread that word around, and the kids that you do get are going to be... you'll get them from parents who are good parents. They're coaches at home a little bit. Otherwise, I can't think of anything really earth-shaking here that might change your programs around. Go to clinics. Go to these clinics. Despite what Bob Reimer says, I have never missed a clinic, a cross-country clinic, in all my years. And now Heath claims there was one, they had a local one around Milwaukee that I wasn't at. That may be true, but pretty much once these babies got going, I have been to every one. And because never think that you've got all the answers. Because what worked with one group of kids might not work for the next group of kids that comes up, and you have to adapt. You have to, oops, these kids can't handle that mileage or this workout. And some kids you may have to baby a little more than others. You can't be bad-mouthing kids. I just don't believe in that at all, because some of the experiences I had as a kid, and the coach said something derogatory to either me or one of my teammates, I'm thinking, you know, that's not making for a better team. So there are ways to do it, and I have the kids go through the famous basketball coach, John Wooden. He's got a pyramid that he recommended to his guys way back when he was coaching, I think in even small college or high school. And we use that. The kids look at that and say, that's how you build a championship person, fast or slow, it doesn't matter.
Well, thank you. I want you to know you've been admired and appreciated by everyone in the coaching community. And I want to say you've always done things with class, and we want to wish you continued success.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.